Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we're going to be updating the Stormweaver build that I league started the early access of Path of Exile 2. This time around, I've made absolutely enormous changes. It is essentially its own build again. Obviously, last time we were trying to focus around the storms, but we were utilizing other skills to assist it. But now we are 100% on storms. We dropped the frost bolts, we've dropped the ice novas. We are now only focusing on the storms themselves, and we're having a great time. But before we get into the video, I want to make an announcement. I have been accepted into the Mobalytics creator program. I will be making content on their website. The idea is I just simply take the Path of Exile 2 builds that I make, and I make written versions of them so that not only you guys can have a way of seeing the build in total and looking it up and being able to see the passive points and the gear and everything like that in game, but it also allows you guys to see the thought process in more detail that I normally couldn't fit in such a short video. So make sure to go down in the description below and check out the Mobalytics planner, and maybe leave a favorite there while you're at it. And after that, we can talk about the build a little bit more in detail, shall we? So why have I made all the changes that I have? Well, I had a very interesting thing happen to me. So the idea was I was trying to finish my third trial of the Sekimas. If you don't know, you need to do a trial of the Sekimas with 3 trials, like 3 floors, to get your Merc ascendancy, right? I was trying to get all of the additional elemental res penetration on exposure. But the problem was, turns out my build wasn't really ready for that, to be honest. Not because I didn't have enough damage or survivability, but in general my build just didn't have enough mobility. And I went around and I was thinking, what can I do to fix the mobility? So I decided to, just for a few zones in the Trial of the Sekima, I decided to run Blink. Now, Blink is a reservation skill. The idea is you trade away your dash for a short-term blink, and what's cool about this is it has a cooldown, and this cooldown, of course, scales with our already very effective shield that we're currently running for the 50% cooldown, which means we can be very mobile with Blink. But I was just kind of using it temporarily, but I enjoyed it so much that I decided, well, now I need to rework my entire build just to have that 60 extra spirit just to be able to run Blink. So now we're running Blink, and let me tell you, forget armor, forget energy shield, forget evasion, forget all these other dumb defenses. The best defense right now in Path of Exile 2 is not getting stun locked by a bunch of mobs in a corner. And you know what solves that? Blink does. Blink literally made my Trial of the Sekimas extremely smooth. That was the first part. Then I decided to swap into Blink, and it's made my mapping smooth. I went from tier 5 maps and being really annoyed by them to all the way being able to do T10, 11 maps instantly. And that's all because of the fact that I have proper mobility now. I believe that this is just the way to go, is to suck up a little bit of our spirit to do this. But what this means, though, is we had to dump the old setup where we ran Frostbolt and Frost Nova. But we've actually ended up making the build better because of it. That is because we're focusing more on Eye of Winter. We have a cast on freeze Eye of Winter setup instead of a cast on freeze setup for Frostbolt and Ice Nova, and this allows us to not only apply a bunch of crits for our storms, it also just gives us a lot of extra clear while we're going through normal maps and stuff like that. And it feels amazing. What's really interesting, though, I went and did some digging on this, and I finally found an answer. So right now, my storms, when they're on the ground, I can trigger them on crit, right? And as they freeze enemies, they will trigger my cast on freeze setup. So for instance, I can shoot a pack with one volley of Eye of Winters, and I create a storm. That storm will freeze enemies, and then that storm depending on the amount of enemies on the ground right now, right, they will shoot out my Eye of Winter like constantly. The only problem with this is it does suck up your mana, so you have to be very careful in how much mana you're actually consuming at a time, because you definitely don't want to be consuming that much mana. But the mana is pretty neutral, all things considered. On single target, the mana isn't even a problem. It's just unclear because let's put it like this: the cast on freeze setup is a little too overzealous. Let's put it like that, right? It's a little too overzealous. But yeah, that was another change. Another change that I made actually was I added on my second Eye of Winter setup. You can actually check the Mobalytics link down below if you want to see the exact linkings. But I actually put on cold exposure on my Eye of Winter because, like, what's the point in casting Frostbomb all the time while we're clearing when we could have a different skill just apply it for us? So cold exposure is a support that applies cold exposure on crit, and this cold exposure scales, of course, with all the extra cold exposure stuff we get. So we're actually doing like 50% exposures whenever our second Eye of Winter hits something and crits it, and that is a massive negative 50% resistance modifier, and oh my goodness, it makes mapping so much better. It's so much extra damage. But yeah, another interesting thing that I've been doing since the last time is I've been trying to abuse the plus level advantage that storms actually get. So if you don't know, storms from Stormweaver, they have the Fizz, Fire, Lightning, and Cold tag, as well as Spell tag, Duration tag, Area tag. They have a lot of tags, which makes it very interesting for plus level of gems. That's because we can run amulets like the one I'm going to show on the screen. I think it's called Fireflower or something like that. I believe that this is the old one, the one that like you used to ignite and take damage and stuff like that in PoE 1. I think this is the new version. Now the idea here is it's giving you up to +4 to fire spell skill gems, but you take 100 damage whenever you ignite an enemy. But it turns out we're never actually igniting enemies because we're not doing fire damage. So this amulet literally just says +4 to skills. Right now, my Stormweaver is at level 27. That is absurd, and the damage shows it. Obviously, I'm not out DPSing monks right now, but I do plenty of damage to just play the video game and have fun. And I'll be honest, like, I'm pretty sure that these storms will definitely scale to endgame. After looking at like all the options we have on our table, we have a few other options for plus levels as well, by the way. Options in terms of corrupts, in terms of jewels. Like, there's so many different options to push this character further that I am not afraid of this build not being able to scale hard enough, because I was kind of scared in the beginning, but also as well, PoE 2 is a little weird. It's a little different than what you'd normally expect. That is because it turns out you need damage, don't get me wrong, but you need significantly less damage than I was prepared for. Like, for instance, I have a clip in this this video here where I'm killing a tier 8 or tier 10 boss or something like that, and he melts, right? And I'm like looking at the number as that's happening, and it like ramps up to like 1,000,000 or whatever. Turns out you actually don't need that much damage to kill endgame bosses in this game. I'm sure like the max you need is like probably like, I don't know, a few million at most to make it comfortable for most things. So I don't really feel like as though I'm going to need that much damage, at least from what I'm currently seeing. We'll see when we actually get to endgame. The only reason why I'm so behind on my maps is because, one, map drops are weird. There's definitely a rhyme and reason to go about doing it, and it took me a while to understand the new Atlas system. I understand it now, so we're good to go. We're dropping maps. But it took me 4 Trials of the Sekima to actually do my Trials of the Sekima for my third one, because it kept crashing on the second floor. The last one I just did finally actually let me play it, and I just got that done yesterday. So now that we're finally done getting our trials for the most part, we can go and actually play the video game and blast. I will say Blink makes this process much easier. Also, as well, there was a patch yesterday that made mapping so much better, because now all the rares on the map show when you have 200 monsters left. I will tell you, trying to kill everything and trying to find all the rares on the map before this patch was absolutely AIDS. Also, as well, rares actually drop items now, which I'm very excited for. I'm going to be blasting all day, and I might actually end up streaming. So, with all that being said, this has been Dread. Like I said, if you want a full detailed guide on the build, I would heavily suggest checking the Mobalytics link. I'm going to be updating this build as I'm finishing it. I will make sure that there's multiple different versions of the build so that, you can have the leveling and all that. I will eventually do a mock leveling run too, probably, to finish this build off and to finish the guide off. But with all that being said, this has been Dread. Thanks, Mobalytics, for assisting me with making content on YouTube.